Welcome to the summit. Life is love, love is life. And I can now introduce you to Michael Meade. Welcome, Michael.
Good to be with you, Susan.
Thank you for being here. And we're going to be talking about the soul. You write a lot of books about soul. You're an author, and you're also a storyteller and a scholar of methodology, anthropology, psychology, and you're very good at putting it all together in nice stories. And sometimes you have your drum. Oftentimes you'll have your drum at live events. I've seen you here in the Seattle area, and it's absolutely wonderful. And you're also a founder of the Mosaic Multicultural Foundation, and where you help activists, you help community members, individuals, all from diverse cultures to come together and to know more about who we really are, the truth in ourselves. And that's absolutely beautiful, a non-profit organization. So that being said, let's talk about the soul. What is the soul, and how does it relate to life, to love?
Good question. So soul, you could say, is the glue of creation. Soul holds spirit and body together. Soul is also the energy of connection. So when people feel connected, the soul is present. When there's no soul present, then you get division and you get hatred. And so we're living through a period now where there is less soul. You can tell because people are so divided and so opposed. So if someone to say what one thing is missing in the world right now, you could say love, because that is missing too, but you could also say soul. And so the lack of soul makes people feel opposed to each other. And then soul is also what connects the individual to the world. So the individual soul is connected to the soul of nature and to the soul of the world. And so in some sense, the period we're living through now requires that we make more soul in order to reconnect culture to nature, in order to reconnect opposed people to each other, and in order to connect all of us to the soul of the world. It's a very unusual time. Soul is also deep. So the old distinction is between spirit and soul. Spirit is connected to air and fire and it rises. Soul is connected to earth and water and it descends. And so, but it turns out that if there isn't enough soul, spirit won't come down. And so soul moves everything. And in that sense, soul is connected to love. There's an old African proverb, what you love is the cure. And what we love is where our soul grows. And so if people are wondering how to grow a more soulful life, go where and to what and to whom you love. The soul, everybody is born with the soul, and to live a meaningful life is to grow soul and bring more soul into the world. That's one way to talk about it.
Yeah. And it's almost like the soul, like your book behind you that I've been reading, Awakening the Soul. It's like you're awakening the deeper part of yourself, the more subtle part, you could say, more energetically subtle. And it's almost like we are disconnected from that part of us that is truly fully here and alive.
Most people are looking in the outside world for what's missing or what they're missing. But what most people are missing is a meaningful connection to the inside world. And so when a person is connected to their own soul, first of all, every person born is a unique soul, right? Nature only makes originals. And so in a forest, you have many trees, but each individual tree is different from another. And the same thing when a soul is born, each soul is unique. And so when people get caught up in mass culture, mass materialistic culture, they're getting pulled outside, and people are looking outside for the answer. And so that's, they fall under the spell of theory, conspiracy theories and things, because they don't know who they are in their own soul. But ultimately, what everyone is looking for is in their own soul, and that includes the capacity to love and be loved. The closer a person is to their soul, the more they know about themselves, about why they came to life, and about what love is about. And so love and soul are very much connected. People call it heart and soul, love and soul. They're connected.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting that there are so many different words, like because I also see life and love as the same. It's like life is love, it's made of love, and it's just to me it's all actually one and the same, but it's just different energies, maybe more subtle energies, more gross energies. But it's all interconnected and interrelated in every way, like a web, and there's no separation, although it does appear like the world is separate from us.
Well, it's all one in spirit. So people will refer to spirit, the spirit. It's all one in spirit. It's all multiple once it's the created world. So spirit goes up and it becomes one, soul comes down and it becomes multiple, and it becomes multicultural. So the way a forest grows down and becomes multiple layers with, mushrooms underneath and all kinds of stuff, that's soul. Soul is about the multiplicity. And so if everything was simply the same, we wouldn't have this world at all. We would have the manifest world, the created world is soulful, it's multiple, it's diverse, it's varied. So another way you can tell when soul is absent is when you don't have diversity. People that want everybody to be the same or only want to be with people that agree with them, they've already lost some soul. Because when soul is present, everybody can see the beauty in each other, just the way all aspects of a forest can be seen as alive and beautiful. So soul is usually the missing ingredient in the modern world. And just to make the comparison, love, everything has quality of love and beauty. The roots of the tree have a beauty of their own, just the way the branches and the blossoming does. And so it's soul that gives us that diversity and that capacity to love diverse things.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like this openness about it, like you're accepting everything around you. It's almost like a flow where everything is allowed, and there's no dogma or static, but it's like a flow.
Soul is connected to water, earth and water. So anytime someone's talking about flow, they're talking about soul. Anytime someone is talking about save the earth, they're talking about soul. Soul is the energy of the earth and the energy of water. And so, that's a good way to understand it. We need spirit because spirit gives fire, air, which means inspiration, intelligence, brightness. Soul, on the other hand, gives earthiness, centeredness. It gives grounding. It gives soulfulness. And so, I guess you could say in some ways there might be spirit food, but usually what that means is leaving actual food for the spirits to eat. Soul food, we eat. So soul food is another kind of item that would bring everybody together for a meal. And so soul is always the unifying factor and the multiplying factor. And so you don't get the richness of the world without soul. And I just want to restate, and that's why I wrote the book called Awakening the Soul. That's what's missing nowadays. And when people don't have a connection to their own soul, they are way more subject to fear and anxiety, and they're more easily overwhelmed by the condition of the world. So the response, which is what the book is about, a deep response to a troubled world. The response to the troubled world is to get more soul, because as long as the soul grows, more spirit can come in. Spirit can't get into the world unless there's soulful energy. Soul and spirit are trying to come together. Because when you enter this world, things are separate, right? As soon as you enter the world, you enter time and space, which are separate things, separated things. So we come from a divine source that is one for everyone, and then we enter the multiple world, which is the world about soulfulness, and then spirit and soul try to come back together in the awakening of the unique person. So when a person awakens, they become more soulful, more grounded, more genuine, more unique, and that attracts spirit. Spirit is not going to go to a person that doesn't know who they are. It's not interesting. The spirit will get mistreated. So it goes to where the soul is present.
Yeah. So it's opening up to spirit, you could say, or recognizing that you are this source, and whatever your mind tells you, and grasping onto all these things, and where we are seeking for something, is not where we need to look, but basically open up to what we already are, and yeah, welcoming, so spirit, soul, and source all can be dancing together, or
Well, inside soul in people's human soul, there is a spirit, which used to be called the genius. So the genius is a distinct spirit for life, and that spirit is inside a person's soul. So when a person awakens to their soul, they get closer to their genius. And genius doesn't mean high IQ or great talent. It can mean those things. The meaning of genius is the spirit that's there when you're born. So each person is born with a unique soul and a spirit that is aimed at a meaningful life, aimed at a destiny. So the spirit, in that sense, is the gifts that a person has, the capacities that they have, and those are considered to be inside the soul. So again, when a person gets more soul, becomes aware of how they are ensouled, they're actually closer to spirit. And again, when the world is falling apart and going upside down, we need to be oriented the way our lives were intended to go.
And how do we do that? Like, do we sit still and really deep looking into ourselves, or what do we do to become more our soul and what we're meant to be?
So for some people, it is about being still, because some people are going to find their sense of self and soul through meditation. Other people are going to find it the exact opposite way, by doing the creative arts. So the soul and the way to get connected to the deeper sense of soul and to awaken to natural gifts. Everyone who is born is gifted. The gifts that we're born with are intended to be given to the world. They're not intended to be traded simply for money or fame. They're intended to be given. And when we give our gifts to soul, the world gets more rich and more spiritual, actually. So how we find it is tricky. In other words, I'm saying everyone has a unique soul. Everyone is specifically gifted. And everyone has a soul trying to awaken in them. And then the question is, well, if that's true, why isn't everybody just doing that and not doing such foolish things that people tend to do? Well, there's where the trick comes in. First of all, a person has to wake up. Awakening or waking up means loosening up the ego. The ego is like the little self. It thinks it's the great self, but it's actually the little self. And everybody has an ego, just the way everybody has a soul. But that ego needs to be loosened up so there's room for the soul to breathe, room for spirit to come and go. So that's one problem. The ego is in the way. And another problem is the gifts and the genius that a person has dwells next to their wounds. So this is a soul idea, which is that every person is unique, every person has a soul, and every person is wounded. And so until a person learns how to be with their wounds and begins to heal those wounds, they can't get close to their genius in a meaningful way. There's an old idea that says genius hides behind the wound.
Mm.
So, and in this case, usually it's psychological wounds. And that can include everything from being told that you're not worth anything when you're a child, or being emotionally abused, or being neglected or rejected. And those become wounds. And those wounds are painful, but next to the wound or behind it is the genius that should have been recognized, could have been celebrated. So I talk a lot about rites of passage. And I think we're now in a collective rites of passage, that collectively we're supposed to be finding more deep soul and higher levels of spirit in order to help heal nature, culture, and bring the world back into connection and balance. But that requires healing the wounds, just the way if we're going to help nature become more vital again, we're going to have to heal the wounds of nature. And so the idea of healing is part of the idea of growing. The word healing comes from whole. In order to be whole, which would be the connection of spirit and soul, we have to heal that which in us, which is wounded. So it goes around like that. That's what I write about.
Yeah. And so it's like an individual healing and also a collective healing.
Yes.
It's
If we want to cure or heal the injustice, the racial injustice, the bigotry, the anti-feminist energies, if we want to heal all that, we have to begin healing ourselves. Rushing out to do healing creates more wounding. The world changes from the inside out, just the way a tree grows from a seed, from the inside all the way out. The world changes that way also. So it's not to be inflated or anything, but when a person awakens to who they are and begins to live the life that's growing from within them, they automatically make it better for other people, and it makes it somewhat better for the world. If people become themselves, the world will get better. There is no single idea or belief or agreement that people can make that will fix things. The agreement we need to make is the agreement to live the life we came here to live. And the information about that, the gifts connected to that, and the genius of that is already inside.
Yeah. So it's for our individual healing. It's about listening to ourselves and be honest with ourselves and see what comes up. Or
Yeah.
it's something. It's difficult to know what to do with oneself. Like, and sometimes I'm thinking, well, maybe it's just fine as I am. Do I have to do anything? But just kind of be here now, and then whatever life serves for me is my challenges, my growth, you could say, taking in life as it comes and responding to life. And it's almost like that's a healing too, or it can be.
Well, that can be healing, but I'm in a sense talking about something different, which is that the soul, which brings us into the world, is like an inner plot or an inner story trying to unfold. And the way I find out who I am, the way I find the path of meaning or a path of heart, is to awaken to the story trying to unfold from within. Each person is a story trying to live into the world. And then also, and I get this from stories, I'm basically a storyteller. And in stories, the idea is people don't come in empty. They come in seeded with the seeds of a story that has meaning and has purpose. And so when a person awakens to that story, then they actually see the path before them. They don't have to, have no path, and they don't have to be given a path. The path is coming from inside themselves and living out. I've been studying mythology since I was 13 years old. And on my 13th birthday, my aunt gave me a book by mistake. And when I ripped the cover off, she said, "Oh, give it back. It's the wrong book." And then I'm ripping off the cover, on which is a flying horse. And the name of the book is Mythology. That was the opening of the story of my whole life on my 13th birthday. And I read the book that night. I didn't understand it all, but I knew that was my language. And so I'm saying everybody has their own genius. Everybody has a language that's natural to them. Sometimes it's the language of visual art. Sometimes it's the language of music. Sometimes it's words and ideas. Sometimes it's the language of silence. A person has to figure out or learn by trying to live what those things are that are natural to them. And if a person lives that, then they will be here now in a way that is meaningful, that's grounded, that's centered, that's rooted the way a tree is rooted. Trees are all saying, be here now. That's what we do. Trees are being here now all the time. A person becomes like a tree, rooted in reality, rooted in the beauty of the natural world, and rooted in meaning by becoming who they already are inside. That's the old idea, that everybody comes aimed at something and everybody comes with gifts to give. And that's the thing we're really looking for. And in the modern world, people think it's out there when it's really inside.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very beautiful, and a lot of like all the myths and all these stories, they do point to that, right, in different ways.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And whenever someone loves a story, or when someone loves a famous person, or if someone loves a figure from religion or a figure from mythology, what they're doing is projecting something in them onto that person, onto that story, in order to see who they are, right? So a lot of people, I meet more people these days who become enamored of the Buddha, and they want to be like the Buddha. And so they begin to do the practices of contemplation, meditation, whatever the practices are. But the story of the Buddha is that he went his own way. He didn't go with Hinduism. He didn't go with Jainism. He created a path which is now called Buddhism. So to really follow the Buddha means to one day make a path for oneself, I would say. That's one way to look at the meaning of that story. And so people use ideas and images and they say, I love that. I love the goddess. I love whatever it is. What they're doing is projecting onto it that which is in them so they can see it. And I mentioned practice. So I think it's hard to be here now without a practice. And practice has two big roads. One is meditation, contemplation, where you basically withdraw from the activity of the world and even the activity of one's own mind. And you get in the here and the now that is like the quiet at the center of the universe. The other path is the opposite. It's express everything now, create everything now, make everything now. So one path is contemplation and retreat into silence. The other path is what we call the creative arts. Turn everything into a song. All you need is love. Turn everything into beautiful paintings. Turn everything into weaving a rug, whatever it might be. Those are the two paths. And I think people go on both paths. And at different times, stages in life, you go on one path or the other path. But a practice of some kind is needed to be here now. Because otherwise you could think you're being here now, but you're really everywhere else but here. I think a lot of people on TV think they're here now, but I think that's questionable. So people have an inner genius, which is distinct and aimed and gifted, and then people have attractions towards certain practices. I mean, I mentioned I got this book of mythology on my 13th birthday. I have been guided by stories almost ever since. Stories guide me. I learn from stories. And when I get lost, I go back to a story. And if I'm not sure what's going on or what to do, I will either follow a dream or follow a story. And a dream is like a story that just came in the night. And so then that's helpful to me. It doesn't answer all the questions, but I know it's natural for me to be in the story world. It's natural for me to be learning from stories. It's natural to me to listen to other people's stories with both ears in order to hear what's really going on in their story. For someone else, it's completely different. And so a person has to find their language, the language that their soul already knows, and find their practice, or find the practice for this stage of life. And then you really hear, because here involves both the unseen and the visible, the invisible and the visible, both the spirit and the soul. That's here.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, listen to your heart, follow your bliss, right?
And your blisters.
Yeah,
I always say follow your bliss and your blisters, because a practice will give you blisters, not just bliss.
yeah. Yeah, it's not all, yeah.
Exactly.
Everything. Yeah, life is everything. Yeah. But yeah, so it's really like so hard connecting to that depth in you, and just kind of a step at a time, you could say, see what comes. And
What's trying to wake up also. So I was thinking of another thing. So one of the famous spiritual paths is devotion. So devotion is different than meditation, because in devotion, you're bowing and often you're chanting and you're making everything sacred. If someone is naturally a devotee, then in a sense, their soul is saying, I'll bow to anything, a tree, a flower, a dog. I'll bow to beauty. I'll bow to anything, because I'm here to be devoted and to devote myself to sustaining life through natural things, through cultural things. So some people have a heart of devotion, and they're going to be themselves. They're going to be a benefit to their friends. They're going to be a benefit to nature and the world, the more devoted they can be. And so that's why in a lot of ancient traditions, you would have the practice of silence and the practice of chanting. Those who chant are making the act of devotion, often saying the names of gods and goddesses, the spirits. They're naming them by singing. That brings them into the world. So that's what I mean, that people have these natural inclinations. And instead of going with those and helping each other find those, the modern world is created on the idea that you get a career that takes you out into the world and you do what other people think is right. That doesn't work anymore. The world's gone upside down. The world is so fractured that you can't even keep a career nowadays. And so I think there's a call to live that deeper life of soul and that deeper life of spirit. This is the time to do that, because the normal things aren't going to work anyway.
yeah, and that devotion, I like that too, is also like devotion, for example, to the tree that you mentioned, or the plant or the flower. Is a devotion to life, devotion to people and the diversity of everything, and devotion to the world. It sounds very beautiful, and it almost sounds like the ego is gone that way too. If there's like this open devotion.
Well, yeah, the ego, when you're being devoted, you're not in the ego at all. And I know, and you mentioned like growing things. For some people, the devotion is to the earth. And you watch people when they're working with the earth, they're down on their knees as if they were praying. And in a way they are. And so they're devoted to the earth. And at that point, they're closer to the earth than they are to the ego. So when we're really being present in an art, in a meditative practice, whatever it is, the ego is not required. Now, there are other times when the ego can be useful. So I'm not a person who's in favor of getting rid of the ego, because usually it knows where the car keys are. It even knows where the ashram keys are. So the ego has a role. So I always think about it as loosening the ego. So there's more room for spirit to come in, more room for soul to come up. And then the ego becomes the assistant to the soul that's trying to grow. The ego becomes the structure that welcomes spirit. And so then it winds up all working together. And the ego is in service of something beyond itself. And yet it's helping keep things kind of in structure or in an orderly shape. That's one
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, to function in the world. And yeah.
Yeah, because now we have to be in the world. I mean, I used to hear the phrase a lot, people can be in the world but not of it. That's one of the things they say in certain spiritual realms. No, I don't think so. We have to be in the world and of the world now. Whatever the spirit is doing now, it has to help the world. We're like in the bodhisattva times, right? The bodhisattva is the one who finds, spiritual fulfillment and then comes back to help others. Right now, the world needs the help of those people who are big enough to be connected to spirit and soul. This is not the time to go on a spiritual trip and leave. No, the other way around. This is the time to bring the spirit into work and help make the world more of a beautiful, connected place again. This is more like bodhisattva times.
Yeah.
The world is asking us to help.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. Wow. Thank you so much, Michael. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Well, you're the one who named it love is life and life is love.
Yeah.
And so if a person can find out who they are and live with that, then they're loving themselves, and then they're adding love to the world, as well as feeling more connected and more grounded, more centered. So
Yeah.
yes, beauty is what we're looking for.
Wow. Thank you so much. So Michael, how can people get in touch with you, your website?
The website is mosaicvoices.org. mosaicvoices.org. And there's, videos and audios and courses and books and recordings of all kinds. And information. There's lots of free stuff, and you can buy stuff too.
Yeah. And can you say a few words about your foundation?
So it started with this idea a long time ago. The Mosaic, the imagination, the vision was to bring broken pieces together. And so sometimes that means people of different races and different ethnic diversities. So we've done a lot of work of bringing people together who normally wouldn't be together. But then it also became working with severely at-risk youth, because they were outside the culture and they weren't even considered a meaningful piece of the culture unless people are selling them stuff. And then that led to working with Native peoples who are outside the culture. And then that also led to working with battle veterans. And then that led to working with homeless people. And so it's been this 40-year project of working with parts of the culture that are rejected or neglected or not welcome. Because every time we welcome the other, we're welcoming the other in us. And when the soul grows, it includes all the others. And so that has become what we call Mosaic, bringing pieces together that might not otherwise be together.
Wow. Yeah, that's so beautiful too. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And thank you for the invitation and for having such a great title.
Mm-hmm.
What we love is the cure. What we love is the cure. And if we can cure ourselves, we're adding medicine to the world. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.